Okay, great. And Daryl, did you want me to display my screen and put items up today?
Either way, I can if you'd like me to.
Yeah, I'm good either way as well. So whatever's easiest. I've got things up already, or if you're ready to go too, that's fine.
If you've already got them ready to go ahead.
Okay. All right, so you should be able to see my screen. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And just a housekeeping item for everyone. Again, just a reminder to go ahead and sign in and make sure you do that through going through the ESInet user group. Click sign in here, and then you can record your attendance. Go ahead and pull up the agenda, maybe. All right, so you should be able to see that now. If you can't see the agenda, please let me know. So we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order from a roll call. It's through sign in, so we won't conduct a formal roll call for everybody on the call. And we will move straight into the project update. And so Cindy, since you're on, I'm assuming that you're going to take the lead of that.
Yes. I don't know if you can accept me into the meeting or on my computer, but I can go through the one I sent on Monday.
Okay, so you need to be accepted in.
Yeah, I'm on my phone, but I'm not in online. It's just in.
Okay.
I'm not showing anybody waiting to come in.
Maybe I clicked the wrong invite.
So Daryl, I was going to email you about this. I did notice two pieces. One, when you go to the agenda invite, it seems to take you here. If you register and log in with your attendance, and at the end it'll show a Google Meet, and when you click on it that way, it takes you to a room to hold to join. I don't know if they're the same or different, but would you mind checking that real quick?
Yeah, I probably forgot to update the link in the form.
So everyone, we're just going to sit tight just in case that is a different link. We don't want people sitting in the room waiting to get in and miss the updates for the project. And just confirming everyone can see my spreadsheet okay? All right, I see a thumbs up. Thank you.
Yes, that's the problem. I had the old link in the response to the sign in.
Okay. Do we have people pending in that meeting?
Yes, and I'll send them over right now.
Okay, fantastic. From the question in chat, do you see the Sites Google link I put in chat earlier? That should take you to the folder. And then from that page, you can click around and see all the documents. So Josh, I don't know if you can see that or not. All right, Daryl, do you think we're good to go?
Yes, there's nobody else in the other room.
Okay, fantastic. So Cindy, you should be able to see the spreadsheet. I've got it up on my screen, and if you wanted to start with an overall status update of the project, that would be great.
Okay. So we still have 5 CSEPs pending alley migration to the ESInet. We're working through those. And those are Douglas County, Parker, Castle Rock, Fremont. Last conversation was that the resources weren't available to work on that this month. And based on the PSAP scheduled with some vacations coming up, it's going to need to be pushed out until I think May 20th is what we're looking at now for those.
Okay.
And the next one is SUPD Tribal. We do have SUPD Tribal. One of their alley links was moved, one was not because it was a lengthy run that went from the jail side of the building to the non-jail side. So it was a little bit more complicated to get put in a permanent fashion. But that cable has been run, and we are scheduled to test that one here at the end of the month.
Okay, great. Anybody have questions on the pending alley migrations? Cindy, do you need any assistance on dates and scheduling from the PSAPs for those alleys?
No, they've been very responsive. I think it's just a resource issue with folks tied up on other projects.
Got it. Okay, and then our pending PSAP migrations.
Yeah, so we have 10 PSAP migrations remaining. Up next is Prowers County. Paul Works PSAP, everything should be ready to go there. And I'll update this comment that I do believe we have resources confirmed for the 20th.
Okay.
We are hoping to get Grand County penciled in there. Actually, I think on the 21st is what they proposed, but I need to hear back. Grand had proposed that date. I haven't heard back on Motorola resources yet on that, so I'll let you guys know. So we'll either have them on the 21st or keep them on 5/4. And then we have La Junta on the 22nd. The circuit issues there have been resolved, so we should be ready to go with La Junta.
Okay.
Trinidad, we did get confirmation after Monday's meeting that the push locks are installed there. Motorola needs to place their equipment, but we should be good with the dates we have for Trinidad.
Okay, fantastic.
San Miguel, we tested and everything passed except one test case with a wireline call or hang-up call where it continued to ring. We did get a test number built yesterday to do some more testing and troubleshooting to make sure that issue is resolved. So I'm going to reach out to San Miguel this afternoon. And once we have confirmation that that issue is resolved, we'll reschedule their cut.
Okay.
And then that brings us to our issues. Striver, we still need to have a circuit installed, and we haven't been able to complete the site survey there. So we've been working to escalate and get contacts that can help us get that done. Buckley Air Force Base, Vincent is actually on site right now, looking at Buckley, just trying to figure out what we can do with that. The circuit extension at Buckley, I think, is 1.5 miles long, and the signal loss is just too much across that. The circuits aren't coming up good at the PSAP.
Mm-hmm. So
So
are
he's
you
on site.
looking at additional equipment to install to amplify?
Yeah, he was looking to see if we could move the circuit or or if we could get additional equipment in, yes. And he's got a study, looking at it. Cheyenne Mountain, we need twist lock power installed. And the person that was helping coordinate that with us is out on medical. But I know we have a couple of contacts through El Paso that are trying to help as well get that one resolved.
Perfect. Hopefully that new contact will help.
Yeah. And then Rangeley, they're remodeling their equipment room and making space. And so we're still pending an estimate on when they're actually going to be ready so that we can install our equipment.
And do we have anybody on today from Rangeley PD? And I know, Cindy, you've reached out a few times trying to pen for a date. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If you need any assistance with contacts for Rangeley, please let me know.
Okay.
And Ronnie, yes, please, if you can have them get in contact with us, we really need to coordinate a date so we understand what we're looking at. All right, anybody who is in the pending category for migrations have any questions? Okay, it's great that we have a short list in front of us, so that's fantastic. I look forward to hopefully getting all of these done. I'm sure you do as well. Within a month, it looks like, so that's great. Okay, the next item would be the issues. And so I'm going to move over to the open issues. Cindy, if you can give us an update on issues that Lumen is working on for the PSEPs that have migrated.
And so we talked about the alley issue. The spam calls, it seemed like they had died down, but I think they've picked back up a little bit for some sites. So we're still working, Vicky's still working that with our trans license and not groups to try and reduce that as much as possible.
So, you know, Cindy, we've identified this months ago, and I know that you guys are taking it back and discussing what possibly can be done, but it just seems like every month we hear that you guys are in discussions about possibility. One of the options that was proposed was to take down all of the different phone numbers from the legacy and only keep one, for example, that would allow access into the system. It seemed like that was a viable solution. It would limit those phone numbers that could be receiving spam calls and isolate it to one and still give you access into the system. I guess I'm just confused on why it's taking so long to get an actionable plan from Lumen on this issue.
I believe that is the plan Vicky is working with Translations on, is reducing those numbers. I'll get with her to get more details on where they're at with that, if they've actually taken some of them out or if they're still identifying all of them. But that was my understanding of where we're at right now, is reducing those numbers to the bare minimum.
And my understanding is we're waiting to hear back what plan you want to implement, but what you just said, it sounded like they could be taking those numbers down and we wouldn't even know. Like they could be taking action right now. Is that correct? Or she's still talking with Complex Translations about what you can do to solve the issue?
I think she's talking with Complex Translations on the plan for removing those numbers. I think that's the only viable solution we've identified at this point. I don't know that she's removed any or where she's at with that plan, but I'll get more info.
Okay, that would be great because we brought this issue up in September of 2020 to Lumen. So it, again, continues, and we know right when a PSEP migrates, the call volumes get incredibly high with spam calls. They do tend to drop off and then they start up again. So we need some path forward to get this resolved.
Yes.
Okay, the next three items are somewhat grouped together, so we could tackle Boulder in CUPD and their remote pad installation. So update on that.
Yeah, so we're extending the circuits there. I had reached out for specifically in where the circuit needed to be extended to, where they were wanting the equipment placed, so that we could give the installer those specific instructions. And the request was that we send someone out to survey the site. So I'm working with Phil and team to get a site survey done at Boulder and CU to get those so that we can write out, put into the circuit extension order specifically where they're extending the circuit to.
So this is Bretza, this is Patty. We keep getting the same response. So it would almost be better if you just said, we don't have the resources to do this, or we'll get you at the very end of this project, but to continue to string us along every day with an email that says, I'm working on it and we've got a date or we got somebody coming out. I don't even have the word to describe it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the equipment is in the state of Colorado. We have the equipment. The circuits are into your building. The last piece I need is to get that circuit extended from where our demarc is to where the equipment will be racked. And to get that request in, I have to give the installer specific instructions. So I had reached out to Hank, and he suggested that we just send someone out to do a site survey to get that info.
Right, and that was a recommendation that was made last week, so we're still waiting.
Right.
So Cindy, how long do you think it's going to be until somebody can physically get on site and do that site survey? Or is there something that that Patty can provide, because it's a site survey that I'm sure you're probably just looking at where in the facility, to what point, how the distance, maybe a photo of the back room. Is it easier for them to just provide you with the data? So, or is that something that you can actually get scheduled this week?
I've been working to get it scheduled. I just don't have confirmation, and I don't want to set the expectation and then have to change it again. So I'll follow up with the team on that site survey and get back to you. If you have the information, that would certainly help. But my understanding was that there have been some descriptions provided in the past that were confusing to some folks, and so the recommendation was that we just come look at it ourselves.
And I think that's still the recommendation based on previous experience.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the status for Arapahoe County for their pad?
The circuit extension request is in for Arapahoe County and should be getting completed. And then we can should be completed this week, and then we can schedule their pad installation.
Okay. And Bruce isn't on today, so I'm not sure if he has any questions. Have you been in contact with him this week?
Not on this. He's upgrading all of his Vipers this week.
Are they aware of what date your folks will be on site? Because I know calling and scheduling and making sure they're notified, it was a critical issue for them.
Right. The installers have been instructed to call before they go to the site. I don't have a specific date from the installers.
Okay, and I do believe that the request that Bruce has made in the past has just been advance notice, not called the day of that they're going to show up. So if you can relay that information, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, the other open item we have is for Vail and their call transfer issues.
Yes, so we've been working with Vail on the transfer issues. Some more detailed information was sent last week. And these are transfers from 911 to admin numbers that seem to occasionally go to voicemail or wrong numbers. We've checked all of our logs, and everything is coming out of the system correctly. And so what we're stuck at now is needing to get detailed logs from the Avaya system on what's happening when it gets to the Avaya PBX at Vail to find out where it's going astray, because it's coming out of the CPE with the correct digits. We validated from all of our login that everything looks like it's going correctly, and we're not able to replicate the issue any of the times we've been on site.
And Cindy, I
So
just want to I just want to clarify. It's 10 digits, but their transfer issues have also, it's not just to like an admin extension. Their 10-digit transfers from 911 have failed when they're trying to reach ski patrol, for example. So we're talking about emergency calls. So getting Wireshark traces or logs from the Avaya, I completely understand. I know, Mark, you were reaching back to your internal team. Do you have an update on that?
We've not been able to get those logs yet from Avaya, but they're still working on it.
Okay. And again, if you need a resource, Mark, I do have a great Avaya tech that I'm happy to get you in contact with.
I remember that you said that, so I'll push that a little bit.
Okay.
And have you had any more issues? I know when we talked on Monday, you hadn't had issues for about a week.
We did have a couple this week. They
Okay.
seem to be slowing down, but they're still there.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part, is we haven't been able to recreate it in any of our testing.
Right. It's very random for sure.
Okay, and then I'm going to jump to an item not on here, Cindy, and that is Summit County also reached out on our call on Monday and asked for some assistance with their transfer issues. We know that's kind of been there were problems, seemed to slow down, get resolved, and they specifically reached out again on Monday. So have you been able to circle back with Summit County?
I have actually reached out to Motorola and our internal tech people. We're trying to set up a call with Summit County to go through everything, because I know Motorola has made some changes on site there to how their transfers handled. So we're working to set up that vendor kind of meet that they had asked for at Summit County. And I believe, go back and look at my emails from Jeff Tucker and his team. I think we should
Okay,
be.
and anybody in Summit County that has any questions or comments about that? Okay, and Cindy, the EXFO probe replacement project, we know that that's still on target for after the completion of the migrations, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you have a project plan on how that's going to go that we can get ahead of that so we can, I'm assuming all that's needed is for us to give access to the technician?
Yes. Yeah, I will. I don't have a plan, but I will pull one together and send over to you guys.
Okay. And then the next item would be MLTS default routing.
And then,
I think we can probably close this one out because all those changes have been made.
yes.
Okay. All right, so from everybody on the call today, do you have any questions on open items that we discussed, or any open items that you need to have added on here that we did not cover that you're experiencing? Okay, that's great news. So we'll go ahead and move on then from open items and old business. So issues tracking spreadsheet, we covered that. And our continued discussion item would be the next steps for the ESInet and specifically text to 911. So Cindy, the group has posed to Lumen several meetings ago, just that continued conversation about text to 911. And the next steps we would like to see is a conversation about how text could enter into the network, benefits, pros and cons. So do you have the resources available today to talk about that with us?
Hang on just a second. I was checking to see who's actually on.
Hey, Kimberly, can you hear me? This is Wes.
Yes, Wes.
No, I don't think we're ready. We internally have to resolve, I think, some things to be discussed on that. And what would it take to add that to a tariff and all that that entails? So I think we need to get with both our regulatory, legal, and SE. We know what it takes. We know the technology as you do, and the whole team and all the users in Colorado do. But to maneuver that into the tariff, I don't want to, Tim, I don't want to loop you in, but I know that we've got to figure out internally what that looks like.
So just before Tim answers, Wes, I don't think we were ready to talk about tariff and pricing. What we were interested in was talking about the network logistics and understanding how techs would come in, what does that look like? We've got techs deployed in the state outside of the ESInet, obviously. So a conversation about how would techs enter into the ESInet? How do you connect directly to the two different TCCs and tell them this is where you come into the network? What impact does that have on the PSAPs that are doing a web solution, those that are doing an integrated solution? So it was more of that kind of operational conversation we were hoping to have today.
Okay, sure.
Versus the tariff. And not to steal Tim's thunder, I mean, of course we want to hear from you, Tim, about how much it's going to cost. But yeah, not yet. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I'm sorry, Kimberly. I didn't mean to jump ahead on that. That's kind of where my mind was racing to.
Sure.
It is an integrated piece of the service. And I think that with her experience over at Entrado, perhaps Cindy can address that. But it was actually a question that was inherent in the solution to try to offer texting, but we had to be neutral on that. So Sandy, I don't know if at a high level, I think what Kimberly and the group want to see is how would that work for texting in Colorado? And as what we've done in other states, or what Entrado might have done directly in other states, as far as integrating that service coming down the same span, and what, if any, impact it has. I know it takes very little data bandwidth, so it's very easily accomplished. Can you expand on that, Cindy?
Yeah, and we've got kind of an MSRP fact sheet on text to 911. I was just looking to pull up and share with everybody.
Do you
Or
want
maybe,
me to? I can stop
Yeah.
sharing. Cindy, are you able to share your screen?
I need to pull it up first. If you can give me
Okay.
just a minute.
Yep, you bet. And while she's pulling that up, Tim Goodwin, I guess I'm hoping that you're going to say you guys are going to be able to offer that to us with no increase or filing for the tariff, right?
Sure, whatever you want for free is just good. It's fine.
Free is always good.
Well, the challenge actually in adding this product and in tariffing it is that we have a statewide tariff, but the costs of deployment are going to be different depending on the underlying vendor for CPE or internal networking that you have. So if you're a Viper system that is already integrated into Entrado, and you're doing Entrado text to 911 currently, then routing that through the ESInet is a very limited marginal cost. But if a PSAP is not set up that way and they're getting their text from somebody else, it's the marginal cost to get it routed through there, just for us and for them, are a lot different. So how do you correctly reflect that in a statewide tariff? And that's what Wes talked about in terms of that. I don't have a firm answer on that. I think one of the benefits of this group is that we can talk about those types of things, and I appreciate some of y'all's input on those issues and maybe how we can approach them. Maybe we can approach it on a one-off or whatever basis. But yeah, because we're trying to connect different environments together, the costs will be different. And I'll just want
Well,
to think carefully and talk, and we can talk about how to be fair to everyone through that process.
Well,
Okay,
I think there's also a policy consideration of wanting to get it statewide that may override some of the financial considerations for some parties.
What do you mean override the financial considerations?
That there might be an advantage to having it as a flat tariff price and spread the cost, and there be some implicit subsidies in order to make sure that every PSAP could afford to have it and put it in place.
Well, I'm not so sure that would be too easy with the white, and Cindy can go into the details, Joe, of the data link that goes to it, and that might be a challenge.
Yeah, and so Joe, I think we're going to let Cindy talk about that, and then the voting members of the user group, we can open it up for questions from them. I don't know if we're ready to get into that kind of detail as it relates to network and cost sharing and benefits and subsidies. So let's kind of take this one bite at a time. And Cindy, I see your screen now. If you want to kind of highlight it, definitely is a little bit hard to read, so I'm hoping you'll be able to share this with me as well.
Yeah, I might need to make a few edits. So this is based on a solution in another state. So it is Viper focused. That is one challenge we'll need to work through in Colorado is all the different cost handling equipment and how Text would integrate specifically with each of those different solutions. So this is just a high level fact sheet of how Text is generally deployed. Again, if you see up here, it's in alignment with Viper and Power 911. Web text will be set up for those PSAPs that are not on the ESInet. Of course, in Colorado, everyone is on the ESInet solution. But web-based doesn't typically come in through the ESInet. It's over a separate, dedicated web connection, and we can talk through that more. The benefits, I think, to a statewide text solution is just the general benefits of being able to transfer those text calls if needed, and having that functionality available seamlessly across the state rather than just in pockets. But from a hardware standpoint, yes, it would come in generally through your existing ESInet router into your system. Assuming Viper or Vesta, those are generally all text-ready systems. Other systems, I think we'd have to work specifically with each PSAP and their call handling vendor on what that text looks like, and if their system is upgraded to be ready for an integrated text solution or not.
And so to kind of fold in a little bit about what Tim was saying, it sounds as if getting the text into the ESInet, smaller questions, smaller configuration, and then it goes back to that demarcation. What if we say, here's where the text comes into, it's up to the PSAPs to decide, is it going to be an integrated solution? Is it going to be a web solution? It's really how the PSAP wants to receive it and how they want to view it and handle that call flow. Does this document talk about it from stopping at that demarcation, or does it go all the way to then receiving that call flow and the type of technology like a Viper or Vesta solution?
This specifically talks through Viper and the functionality through the Viper system, but we can pull together probably a Vesta look as well.
Or because,
You know,
or
in South Dakota, this is based on South Dakota, and South Dakota's
Yes.
an
Yeah.
integrated solution. So there's not, the demarc means less, or somewhere between less and nothing in South Dakota compared to here.
yeah.
Right.
So I wonder if we can't break this up into a different document. I think all this information is great and pertinent to those that have the Vest or the Viper, but really from the ESInet user group focus, it stops at, can I get that
Right.
TCC data to my demarcation? What I decide to do once I have it come in is that demarcation. And so that network piece and how Lumen interfaces with the different TCCs is really a good focus discussion.
Right. Yeah, and absolutely, that's what I was going to propose, is that we customize this to the Colorado. I wanted to share what we had from a more detailed, what a statewide solution could look like at a detailed level. But there are some definite differences, because South Dakota did go with a statewide call handling equipment implementation as well. So it's an integrated ESInet with a statewide call handling. So it looks very different. We can take this and pull out just what it looks like to bring it into the ESInet, and then what your options are once it's there on how you integrate it with your call handling. If you want it integrated, or if you want a web version, etc.
And Cindy, I think that would be a fantastic communication tool to have Lumen's role in where you've been able to integrate options just to get it to come into the network, and then the demarcation options, known options, Viper integration, Vesta integration, web application, and of course we've got some other call handling systems in Colorado, CallWorks. For one,
Right.
I'm not sure if they can take text, and so but that other information could be beneficial for folks to just review. So in my opinion, I think if you were to be able to modify this document or break it out, the first couple of pages focuses on that, and then additional information is provided at the end for PSAPs just to get informed for those that aren't already doing text. But I would like to see what the other voting members of the ESInet user group think about the next phase in this conversation, which would be Lumen to clean up this document, focus it on Colorado specific options. Any comments or questions from the voting members?
This is Jennifer, and I support that.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. Anyone else? Okay, so Cindy, I think somebody went on mute. I hear something, but so feel free to take the floor if you have a comment.
It's just Todd Holsworth with Grand County. That sounds like a way to go.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Thanks. So Cindy, can you take
You
that
saw
as an...
Carl in the chat too, right?
I didn't. I apologize. I can't monitor everything. Thanks, Tim. I get lost on the chat. So thanks, Carl. I see your support as well. So Cindy, if you could do that, but get it over to us ahead of the next meeting so we can discuss the document and our options ahead of the meeting. And then, and I know I don't want to have that tariff conversation at that point yet, because Tim, we won't even know what to ask you. So I'd much rather the group understand kind of what we want. And then we could put a formal ask in front of Lumen to say, okay, can you consider what the pricing, if we were to say this is the limited scope, for example.
Right, and we need to finish our thinking as well, because I think it might help you to formulate questions if we come up with a more concrete proposal that makes sense in Colorado. We're struggling with that at the moment, so we need to continue to struggle and advance our thinking and speaking about it as well.
I'd like to hear that in terms of feasible options, which I think this is where we're headed.
Great, thanks, Matt. And I see Jeff agrees with that direction as well, so thank you. So action item, I just want to reiterate from the task force perspective, our accessibility subcommittee, this is a high priority item for them. So from an ESInet user group, we definitely want to put some priority and attention on this item. So Cindy, please, within the next couple weeks, if you can, get that over to us. And then our target goal would be for our May meeting that we're able to have a robust conversation about it.
Yeah, so Cindy and Wes, let's schedule some meetings with the product over the next few weeks to make sure that we're progressing that discussion.
Roger that.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have any comments on text before we move on to the next new business item we have? Which I see it on your screen right now a little bit, which is ECATs.
Yeah, and that's where the other reason I wanted to pull up this document is it talks a little bit more about ECATs, which I know some of the PSAPs in the state have and are familiar with.
Yeah, so maybe I can just tee this up a little bit. And so for everybody on the call, for a few months, we've been discussing Clearview reporting, changes in Clearview reporting, that Intrado is updating that platform, but the reports in that product, an accuracy, what it's measuring, using the tools, it's been disappointing. And we're also questioning the accuracy. And so getting accurate tools to look at call metrics is absolutely critical. And so many PSAPs in Colorado do have ECATs as a solution, and they believe that that solution delivers a great, reliable look at how 911 is behaving in their PSAPs. So that's where we pose the question from an ESInet user group back to Lumen to say, what would ECATs look like? Is it possible to use ECATs at just, we're not talking about stuff inside my PSAP, but looking at it from your selective routers, looking at it from that ESInet perspective, because ECATs has a lot of different spokes that it can dive into to pull stats from. So just really narrowly focused on forklifting Clearview and inserting an ECAT solution that we can tap into to run reports. So that was the question we posed last month. And I know you're going to take it back and hopefully find some great answers for us. Again, that free comment is always going to be asked.
Yeah, that free comment is between Wes and Tim and company. But yes, ECAT is, we have had a meeting with Intrado and the ECAT team about it. It is definitely an option. And to have that kind of state level metrics and PSAP level metrics, ECAT has the ability to drill down to individual calls and look at it from many different levels, and has, I think, a lot more flexibility in how you can query and look at your data. What we would like to do is honestly to set up a web meeting and give you guys a demo of ECAT and what that would look like, and see which parts in particular you're interested in exploring further.
Okay.
And we need to work that with the actual ECAT team and have the ECAT team give you that demo. But I do think it, based on the meetings we had, it would offer you everything I think you're looking for in that reporting at a state level, a region level, or a PSAP level.
I think that would be great. And then from that demo, we would be able to narrow down our ask. And then from the ask, Lumen could take it back and discuss pricing difference by changing platforms. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So because it's difficult to try and coordinate everyone's schedule, I can't see any reason why we couldn't do that for the May meeting and just even extend our meeting. By the time we get here in May, hopefully we will have most, if not all, of the migrations complete, all the open items resolved, and that would be great use of our time, would be to focus on text and ECATS and dedicate that entire meeting. And even if we extended the meeting by 30 minutes, we could do that to allow ample time. Does that sound like a good date for you to try and see if you have resources available, Cindy, for the ECATS discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we had some preliminary meetings with them about this already, so I think that should give us lots of time to set up a specific.
Okay, and then I would like to perfect. I'd like to open it up to the voting members to see if you have any specific asks that you would like to see with ECATS or questions, so Cindy can jot those down and be prepared next month. And I'm watching chat now too, if you would rather put it in chat.
I say, and mainly, are you guys really looking at it as replacing the metrics you have in Clearview today with a little bit more user-friendly functionality? Or are there things you're not getting today that you want to see if ECATS can give you?
So I'll jump in real quick while people are coming off mute. So Cindy, my original was focusing on just the Lumen network because everything on my end of the demarcation is my responsibility, whether that's to pay for an ECATS product or pay for my own solution for reporting. But the Clearview tools are cumbersome. I'm not saying that the type of reports are bad. I think it does give us a good look into abandoned calls, call flow, time on hold. So I wasn't thinking that anything was missing, but network behavior and volume is really critical in having it accurate, like wireless call volume, because that correlates to our prepaid wireless surcharge distributions.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody has anything else?
This is Daryl. I was just going to suggest that a lot of people probably haven't thought about this until this meeting. So, if they think about it and get questions to you later, maybe that would be a good way to kind of pass those along to Cindy.
Great point, Daryl. And so I don't know how many of us are getting into Clearview either. So it'd probably be a good idea to get into Clearview and take a look at reports and maybe what you think is missing and jot that down. So we could say to Cindy, hey, on a statewide network perspective, we really want to see this report. Can ECATS do that?
Yeah, and that would just help us focus what information we're giving you rather than just being too broad and general on the overview. If any of you haven't been in Clearview in a while, it will lock your account after a while, and you might have to call that Entrado knock number to get your account unlocked. So just be prepared for that.
Okay. And Patty's also advocating for ECATS to be free. So putting words in her mouth, but all right. Anybody have anything else on ECATS? I believe we have a plan forward for a demonstration next month if Cindy can get the resources lined up. And if not, Cindy, then we'll work on another date and time. And in the meantime, everybody should be logging into Clearview and just jotting down reports that you don't see in there that you think would be helpful from a network perspective.
I'm going to do my best to go ahead and invite them to next month's meeting today and see if we can't lock in the resources, and then we'll work over the month to refine that demo, but get them all confirmed.
Okay, sounds great. Carl, did you have a comment?
Yeah, and I kind of agree that I think the biggest issue with Clearview is just the issue of, I have a hard time logging in every time. It's just not technically safe.
And I know it can be slow, frustratingly slow at times. Yeah.
Well, the requirement, at least to use an outdated, probably insecure web browser, is not great. And I know they're working to fix that, but it's still a concern as well.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I would recommend that anybody accessing Clearview do it from a computer that's not hooked up to the same network as your CAD or your phone system.
Great point. All right, anything else on ECATS? Okay, our next item on the agenda is report review. I don't know, Cindy, if you have any stats that you're prepared to discuss today or pull anything, and frankly, I'm not sure if this is our month that we're supposed to be doing that.
Actually, it probably is, but I don't think I have it in front of me right now. Let me take a look real fast.
Okay, and while Cindy is pulling that up and taking a look quickly, we'll go ahead and jump over to open discussion, and then we'll circle back to report review. And the open discussion is I'll just open the floor from any concerns or open items that the PSAPs authorities would like to bring up to Lumen. So quiet in this case is usually pretty good, so that's great. And then anything from the Lumen team that's on the phone today that you have open items that you want to bring up from you to the PSAPs authorities. Okay, and Cindy, did you find the reports or pull them up, or do we need to give you more time?
It's right now.
Okay. While Cindy is pulling that up, I'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. So anybody that's joined us today that's not a voting member, if you have anything that you would like to bring forward to the group or to Lumen to discuss, this would be your time to take the floor.
Kimberly, this is Daryl. This probably should have been brought up during the issues tracking, and maybe this is something we can add to the issues tracker, but I know that Kit Carson County has been asking for functionality to be able to transfer calls back and forth across the border to the county on the other side of the Kansas state line. AT&T is the ESInet provider in Kansas, and I've been talking with Vicki Hyatt about the possibility of getting them set up, starting with Kit Carson County, but really all of the counties bordering Kansas, so that they can have that functionality to transfer calls back and forth between the two ESInets. And she's been in touch with Intrado, who has also been in touch with AT&T. I understand they're talking, but it seems to be moving very slowly. So I'm wondering if maybe that's something that would be good to add to our issue tracking.
Well, I guess that's a great question, because serving up here in northern Colorado, we haven't had the ability to transfer over to Wyoming, and needless to say, we have that need. Whether it's I-25 or fires, whatever we're working between the two states, that functionality is critical, and I'm going to assume that everybody that borders a different state probably has a need to do that. So I don't know if it's an issue or if it's more of a program product conversation again to ask Lumen, what is it going to take to transfer ESInet to ESInet when we cross state lines? So Cindy, how would we like to form that conversation?
So that's more complicated than it would seem just on the outset. It depends on the net that you're talking about, so they're not all the same. I know Wes and Vicki have been working on this conversation specifically with Kansas, and how we develop a plan to interconnect with Kansas ESInet. But I think we would need to expand that, from the sound of it, to kind of all of our bordering states. I don't believe Wyoming has an ESInet at this point.
No. And
So it's transferring back to legacy network.
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly, this
So
is Jeff.
go ahead, Jeff. This is Wes, but I'll add after your comment.
My thought is it perhaps necessary to have some government-to-government discussion of this rather than vendor-to-vendor to provide direction to the vendors as to what is wanted on either side.
Good point. Because there is some regulatory things to that, Jeff. And AT&T got a little bit ahead of themselves, I think, in some discussions perhaps with some of the PSAPs on that. So there's a couple of ways to accomplish this. But one is that the good thing is that we share the same technology in many aspects with Trado. AT&T uses the Trado slightly customized routing complex in Kansas. And of course, we know that we share that. So we'd have to have a common point of interface, POI, to go to that to make that happen. Or alternatively, we would need to actually maybe build some network links to get to AT&T, which is another consideration of engineering, associated cost, and that sort of thing. So Kimberly and the group, we have been looking at that for quite some time. But as Cindy points out, it can get complex on several different levels. I think first what we'd like to go ahead and focus as much as we can on finishing the ESInet for the state. And then this is on our agenda to try to get this thing resolved. But there's no quick, easy answers. But
Okay, so I agree. Let's definitely get this on a tracker or as an open item, new business that we want to make sure that we don't lose sight of and that we track. And I know technically that's the end goal when we get an IP network, is we want to be able to cross state lines and have that POI, as you pointed out. So Daryl, thank you for bringing that up. And the conversation, I think, is going to be critical for this group to tackle, whether it's what we want, and then from Lumen, what we can do. So those two have to come together, obviously.
Yep, perfect summation. Thank you.
Great. And so we'll pause the open items, the public comment. Well, Cindy, you're displaying your screen, and we'll come back to that. But if you want to talk through the reports, that would be great.
Yeah, so this is the Q1 2021 network quality behavior report. So you'll see this looks a little different when I print it to PDF and email it to you. But this is the test completion. Those are those expo probes we've talked about that are in your host node locations and attached to each of the ESInet routers. And they ping the network periodically throughout the day. And that's what you're seeing on these test completions. And the 200 OKs are what we expect back, which is in blue. And you're seeing that that's pretty much all we're getting back here. If I hover over them, one of the benefits, I can actually see the numbers, which I don't think you can see in the report. So you can see as we bring in a new PSAP, the number will jump up just a little bit. Voice quality by PSAP. At this point, we have so many PSAPs online, it's impossible. Sorry. It's almost impossible to distinguish on this bar an individual PSAP in here, but you can see at the top of the screen that we're hovering just under that 5 bar.
Okay. And then just a reminder to everybody, I mean, nothing is glaring here. All of this is well under what was required in the tariff. So everything looks good. From a packet loss, same thing. Even though we see some increases, it's still incredibly low compared to what was required in the tariff.
Right. And all those little spikes are on that Miami simply because it's a longer path, obviously, to go. So we see more packet loss on that Miami route, but well under the metrics. And the same with this delay in microseconds. The metric is actually in milliseconds. but it would be so low it would look like a straight line at the bottom of the chart if we displayed it in milliseconds. So we show it in microseconds because it actually makes a chart. But everything is well within standards here.
Okay, great. So you're going to be able to provide this over in the PDF document that you've done before.
Yep. I will export that right now.
Great. Anybody have any questions on those reports?
And I think I've said before, if anybody has a question or concern on their specific PSAP or a specific day, just reach out to me and I can pull your PSAP. If you had a day where you thought maybe the voice quality or you're experiencing some issue, I can pull that day for your PSAP and give you a report that's specific to that. It's kind of a one-off report, but I'm happy to pull it if anyone has any questions or concerns.
Great. Thank you, Cindy. Anybody, we're going to move on to public comment, so I'll open that back up. Anybody have any other public comment they would like to bring up? Okay, then just to close out for the action items, Cindy's going to work with a few of you on open items, dates, to try and close out those open items. We've got a few migrations left, but those should all be done hopefully mid-May, end of May at the latest, which is fantastic. Cindy is going to work on resources for our next month's meeting, and we're going to tackle text to 911 in depth as well as ECATs. So that meeting may be extended an extra 30 minutes. So if you can just modify your calendars now and hold until 11:30 to make sure that we can have enough time to go through those. And Cindy, you're going to email us the PDF of the reports and the text to 911 document.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So with that, then I'll open it up one more time for any other items before we adjourn. Okay, well, thank you everyone for getting on the call. We tackled a lot today in a short order. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Cool.